winning it back to back is so difficult. So like the odds and the probabilities say it won't happen, but at the same time, the odds and probabilities of all MLS history has not really factored in Lionel Messi being on the team. So I just feel like they're probably going to do it again. You know, anything could happen. And if Son and Boanga are firing, there's no reason they couldn't run away with it. I like it. I think if that was that's the final I thought that MLS probably wanted to happen last year, I'd love to see it this year.
Hello, and welcome back to the All Out Soccer Podcast. The 2026 MLS season is upon us. Myself, Jeremy Goldstein, my co-host, Joseph McBride. We're two football fans talking about soccer. We talk about a lot of things on this show, but this week we're keeping it MLS focused. So if you're interested in the U.S. men's national team, women's national team World Cup, not happening. This is an MLS-only show. Joe, how we doing? How we feeling?
I'm feeling pumped. I'm feeling excited. The MLS is finally back this weekend, and we both obviously went to Red Bull Media Day this week as well. And I think just going there and being around, you know, the players and Michael Bradley, just feeling really excited now. So really can't wait for Saturday. Toronto
legend Michael Bradley, who Joe has a picture with, the only person to recognize him in a Toronto parking lot about 7 years ago. I thought it was a funny story.
Yeah, literally, there were swarms of fans in Toronto FC shirts. No one even batted an eyelid at him. I went straight over. In fairness, the CNE was on, big event in Toronto at the time, but still couldn't believe it. And then, 7 years later, we're sat there in New Jersey, Harrison, and he's, you know, there as head coach. Weird full circle moment.
That's no excuse. For anyone with a very distinctive physical trait, Bradley's is his lack of hair. You got to recognize, I understand a lot of footballers look the same. They all have the same haircuts these days, whatever. He is it's like the SpongeBob meme when he points and it's like bald. You know what I mean? That's Michael Bradley, but very good looking man, very well spoken. Very impressed with him at the press conference yesterday. We might get into a little bit of Red Bulls today, but this podcast, first half, we're going to talk about teams, previewing the best teams in the East, the West, sleepers, and all sorts of superlatives. Then we're going to take a break, and then it's superlatives for players, MVP and MVP, non-Messi MVP, blah, 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 stuff like that. Biggest disappointment, transfers, all the jazz. While you're here, please, please, please leave us a like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple, wherever that may be. Joe, we're going to start top of the Eastern Conference. I have a team, number one. Who do you have, number one?
I'd put a lot of money on the fact we probably have the same team as number one. Of course, into Miami.
Toronto.
Do it. I wish. I mean, geez. I mean, they'd be lucky to make playoffs, but I digress. Yeah, it's got to be into Miami. I mean, just, of course, you know, big players have left. No Jordi Alba, no Sergio Busquets, but I'm really impressed by the business they have done. Betrame, I think, is going to have a really, really good year. Sergio Reguilon, quite interested to see how he does, but I just think with Silvetti looking good in another season and DePaul having another year under his belt, I can't see anything but into Miami conference win, really.
Yeah, they won 1 of 6 in a stretch in May in the middle of the season. Then they really rallied together second half of the season. They won 6 of 8 in one stretch in September. Messi was scoring literally a brace every single game, not making that up. Like there was like 4 games in a row he scored a brace. Was out of the lineup. Was 6 games. They looked untouchable in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And now they've added a proper striker. And, you know, Silvetti's had some time there. They bring back Allende. Look, their defense, there's been some moving parts and some changes this summer. But, I mean, if they hit the ground running this season at all, they're going to run away with the East. Let's look at number 2, Joe. I'm going to be more confident we have a different choice here.
Okay. Well, you know, it's soon to come out.
By the way, Joe and I are doing the top 4 in each conference.
I think Cincinnati will do it. I believe in Denke and Evander. I think they're going to have another good year. I like the defense as well. I know they got kind of blown out in the playoffs by Miami, but I just think they're a solid team. And the fact that they won the Supporters' Shield in 23 and then they came third in 24 and second, I think it was last year, like they're always consistent. I think they'll be around there again.
I have them at 4th. Miazga's out. Matt Miazga, center back to start the season. Story of his career so far. Our boy Miles Robinson will anchor that defense. They have a really consistent spine. Pat Noonan, also the coach, been there now for a very long time. Don't love their attacking depth. I think they're incredibly over-reliant on Denke and Evander. And again, they won a lot of one-goal games last year, especially late. I don't know if that's the most sustainable formula, but they do have some things in place that scream like they can't drop that far. Like they wouldn't be losing these matches, and they're still very solid. It's just that got them some extra points. So I have them in fourth. The team I had in second did make the playoffs last year, just barely. And that's Nashville, Joe. They were in 54 points last year, but their plus 13 goal difference was third best in the league. Christian Espinoza, a player I love, a hybrid wingback / winger. He comes on a free. Losing Zimmerman, obviously the center back, has been there forever. That hurts. The current center back pair looks extremely untested. It's going to be Thomas Williams and Maher to start the season. They did sign one guy, Maxwell Wolecki. Bit of a question mark there, but Mukhtar and Surge had a great season last year. This attack, they went toe to toe with Miami almost in the playoffs, and they came alive again. Another team in the second half of the season. MLS tables vary dramatically year to year. That's why I'm going with Nashville at 2. Did you have them in your top 4?
I did. I really don't mind that shout. I've got them third. I think
he's
going to have a better year this year. Surridge, if he can, hit the same numbers, it'll be great. And obviously having Espinoza is only going to surely make his game even better. The defense is a grey area, similar with Miami. Obviously Miami, I think the new goalie they've got, Dwayne Sinclair, I think it's going to be massive. But I had Nashville at third. Second, I don't mind it at all. I'm really excited to see what they have this year. And they got a great crowd, great stadium. They've had some great times over the years, and I think they're going to have a really solid season.
Yep. Only thing is Hani Mukhtar is getting a little up there in age, but one to watch. So we are missing your 4th place team and my 3rd place. Who do you have in 4th?
In 4th, let me just make sure I haven't got this wrong. Okay, so this is a little rogue, but
I hope we have the same one as I'm rogue in 3rd too.
I got the Chicago Fire in 4th.
Yep.
No way. Wow, we're actually agreeing this year. Yeah, I just think Greg Berhalter did really well. They were bottom of the whole conference 2024, 7 wins, I think it was. And last year they went up to 15 wins, so over double the amount of wins, and looks all right. And I just think they've still got decent players. They've retained, Zinkernagel, who I really like. Jonathan Bamba's a talented player as well. And I just think they're going to continue to improve. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get into that spot.
I really like the defense. Elliott and Gutman were a really strong pairing last year in the back, left back, and center back. This is a name ready for this pronunciation. They signed a very highly rated center back. Mbekazeli Mbokazi, I believe South African center back, extremely highly rated. He's going to slot in that front line of Hugo Kuipers, Philip Zinkernagel, and Jonathan Bamba. Again, that's now there for year on year. Zinkernagel ran a little hot last year. He had 30 goal involvements. That'll progress, but Kuipers is an amazing player. They did lose Brian Gutierrez. That was my biggest concern. Robin Lode, MLS veteran. I just think it's never bad going from a 22-year-old to a 30-year-old. It's not as bad as you think. I mean, it's just it's a creativity in a different way. Gutierrez is more of a driving player, but I'm glad they made that replacement, and with Berhalter there for an extra season. Why the hell not? Joe, we're going west. I wonder if we have the same top 4 here. I think we're going to have the same number 1 here.
Yeah, I think so too.
Who do you?
I have Los Angeles FC. Just quickly, I'm really shocked at the same top 4 in the East, but I'm quite proud of it.
We won't in the West. I'm actually 100% positive. If you have the team I have in 4th, I will eat my hat on camera.
Well, LAFC, I just think obviously a whole season with Heung-Min Son, him and Boanga were so dangerous together. I think Son scored, I think he had 12 goals and 3 assists in his 13.
12 goals in 13 games.
It's just amazing. And I think them having even longer together in a full preseason is going to be even better. I also really like the midfield signing of Stefan Eustáquio. I think he's criminally underrated and is going to help provide a lot of stability there. And obviously a bit of question mark over Boanga, a bit of beef in the offseason. Maybe did he want to join Miami or not? But I'm sure he'll be fine come the start of the season. And I don't really see... obviously there's so many talented teams in the West, but I just think they might run away with it a little bit.
Yeah, they hit 6 games in a row. At one point they won. They were barely conceding was the other thing too, and then they rested starters at the end. Of course, they only lost to Vancouver's in a absolutely wild game on the road. Again, those teams were super bunched in the standings. They had to play Vancouver, instead of San Diego in that semifinal round. Only lost in penalties. Another good player who's in is Jacob Schaffelberg, who's had a lot of success as a super sub, which I think is a perfect role for him. So I think that'll be really useful. Very few players walked out the door. And if Son and Buenga, they don't have to be even as good as they were last year for this team, I think. Again, considering the shaky start, Giroud was obviously in terrible form. They're my pick to run away with the West. Second place, I have a team that won silverware last year, but just not in the MLS.
Okay, well, go on.
I have Seattle.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Are they in your top 4?
They are not.
They're not.
No.
I thought Seattle were really unlucky in the playoffs. They lost to Minnesota on penalties in a very, very weird first-round game. Obviously, they are the reigning Leagues Cup winners. The only player they lost of note was Obed Vargas. He's gone to Atletico Madrid, of all places. Reed Baker-Whiting's also left. I'm going to read the names of the players that their coach, Brian Smeltzer, can pick and attack. Pedro de la Vega, Paul Areola, Jesus Ferreira, Jordan Morris, Musovski, Albert Rusnak, and even Paul Rothbrock, who just was more like a fan favorite and last year popped up in an attacking way. They can have 3 or 4 of those guys on the field at all times. And I just don't think any MLS team can call on that sort of depth in the attacking space. It's really exciting and fun team.
Yeah, I think I may have overlooked Seattle a little bit. They got a lot of depth. I can't lie. I just think, yeah, they had a great year. Obviously, it could have been much better, but they still had a trophy, so you can't really complain about that.
I think I know who you put second. I think I know who you put second.
Yeah, I went Vancouver again.
Yeah.
I just love what the head coach did in his first year, a full season as well with Thomas Muller. I'm excited to see how that goes. I do think the loss of Ali Ahmed to Norwich City might be a bit of a blow, and also Jaden Nelson, but they've just got a lot about them. And I said a lot last year, pretty bored, everyone listened to it, but they didn't have, at the time before Miller came, that like big star, but as a whole roster, they were just really, really balanced. And yes, they've lost a bit of depth, but I just think they'll be, ready to go again. And after, going so close and that horrible 5-0 loss to Cruz Azul, I believe it was, like, they've had a good experience last year, and I think they'll be able to learn from their lessons.
Yeah, so Czech Sabali and Kenji Cabrera are the cheap new wingers who were brought in to replace Nelson and Ahmed. Cabrera's looked a little saucy in preseason. They started off their full season with a 0-0 draw in the CONCACAF Champions Cup qualification round. That's not great. But as long as they have Muller, White, and Emmanuel Sabi up front in some combination, that's good. Blackman stayed, the center back, reigning MLS Defender of the Year. That was really important. And then the midfield two of Seb Berhalter and Andres Kubas, very, very strong. Mm-hmm. Can they be as creative with those 2 absences we described? I don't know yet. And if they don't, I'm sure they'll make a move in the winter or over the summer. So that's just the one hole for me with Vancouver. And that's why I have them in third. Who's your third place team?
And third for me is San Diego. I'm half expecting like a potential drop off from a really exciting year. Obviously, we saw it with St. Louis City FC quite drastically after their expansion year. But I just think Honest Dry is too good. I know there's a bit of a messy situation with Irving Lozano at the moment, but I'm quite excited by the signing of Lewis Morgan. I think he kind of needed a fresh start from Red Bull, and I think he can really do well there. I think they got the pieces to do well. I don't know if they're going to keep the consistency up, but yeah, I just think they'll be up there again one way or another, and Dreyer is just great to watch. So hopefully he's as good as he was last year.
I cheated and picked 2 teams for biggest disappointment. They were in one of mine. It's just screams regression. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like it's not anything against them. It's just like the team is not super talented. It's just not. So that's my quick take. It's just, I don't know if it's historically what they did last year was so unprecedented that to do it again, it's just you're doubling down on a historical claim, and I can't do that. And they also overperformed a little bit, XG numbers, blah, blah, blah. So they're out. I'm fine with that pick, though. I mean, it's a very safe one. And who do you have rounding out your top 4?
Well, you've said if we have the same that you're going to eat your hat, so I'm kind of hoping we do at the moment. But
my team missed the playoffs last year entirely.
Oh, okay. Well, I went with Austin FC. I just really like what they've got going on at the moment. I think they finished 6th last year. Looked really, heavily improved.
Exciting young US players, yeah. I like all.
Yeah. They've got Jaden Nelson, who, if you've listened to this before, you know that I'm a massive fan of, and I think he can do really well there. Brandon Vazquez. Yeah. Brandon Vazquez is a top player. And they have brought Facundo Torres back to MLS, who I've always highly rated. And I think he can really add a lot to that team. I like what they've got going on down there. And I just feel like they might slip into that top 4. So it might be a mad shout, but I've got to throw one in there.
I like it. Vasquez, again, returning from a major injury, I think about 7 or 8 months ago. He tore his ACL, I think, or Achilles. And they won to watch. Big team. I went with a team that also had their star signing of 2025 have his 2025 season end short with an injury. And I went with Houston, also in Texas. Jack McGlynn, obviously, he's going to miss the start of the season with his injury. But this is the team that won the MLS transfer window. Mateus Borges, who was a star a few years ago in LA. He's back from Mexico. Big signing. I think he's a tremendous player. He's going to pair with Guilherme, another player they signed from Santos, who was Neymar's strike partner a few months ago. They signed 2 Brazilian center backs, Lucas Hauter and Felipe Andrade. Those are going to replace their 2 starting center backs, in my opinion. Hector Herrera's in on a free now, back in the MLS central midfield. He's going to partner with Diade Semeseco if he plays. Player at Hoffenheim for many years. Ezequiel Ponce has emerged as one of the most well-rounded strikers in the MLS. This is the team of the summer. Does that mean it's going to translate? I don't know, but every year we see teams go from out of the playoffs to up the table and vice versa. So this is my pick.
Yeah, Borges is a great player. Hector Herrera coming back's cool. Great experience. He needs to keep his cool and not get too many red cards, etc. But yeah, I don't mind it. It'd be nice to see the Dynamo doing well again. Obviously a historic team. Don't mind it.
All right, Joe, we're going to rapid fire through some of these. The Wooden Spoon, team with the worst record in the MLS. Who do you have?
Montreal, and it's not a biased one. It's just they had a bad year, and I haven't really seen much improvement this summer.
They've done nothing.
No, so yeah, I can't see much happening there. It feels like they're like preparing and waiting for a really big DP signing or something, but nothing's happened. So I can't say that they're going to be any better than last year.
Yeah, Didier Drogba ain't coming back anytime soon. Again, we don't have too much time to get into all of these, but we will hopefully be covering Montreal this season because they're going to win some games and get some upsets. But as of right now, someone has to finish bottom. Sleeper team, Joe.
It might be slightly biased, my interview with Joseph Pansel, but I think the LA Galaxy, as I said, they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to do all right. I don't think they'll breach the top 4, but I think that they're going to be back. If Gabriel Peck, João Klaus, and Pansel can establish that front 3, I think that would be a really difficult team to play against.
I can't argue with that. I really thought about them. I just think the absence of Ricky Puig in midfield is just didn't get addressed. And I just think it's just like this. You take a team that can play a Barcelona level of football to a team that can't, just like that. I pulled a rabbit out of your old playbook here, and I'm taking Atlanta. Tata Martino has a very strong record in the MLS. He was very lucky in 2024 when his Miami team were eliminated in the playoffs by Atlanta. Again, former MLS Cup winner with Atlanta all those years ago, and he's back with his old friend Miguel Almiron, who wasn't great, I must say, in his return to the MLS last season. This is a team still stocked with talent up front. Hopefully, expensive striker Emmanuel Latte-Lath can look a little more like Kevin Denke did in his first season than just kind of looked like an average MLS striker than anyone worth over $15 million. Again, random turnarounds happen in the MLS. This is a team near rock bottom. They still have major question marks in defense, but why not?
Yeah, it's a team that should be in that top 4 that we said about with the talent they have, but obviously it was a terrible year. My dark horse shout, my sleeper team shout last year was horrendous, but thankfully you've taken the baton now.
I'll die on the hill this time.
Yeah.
All right, biggest disappointment. I teased San Diego were one of mine, but I do have one more written down. Who do you have?
Okay, so this might also be my banana skin. I've gone with the San Jose Earthquakes. They've retained Chicho Arango and they've signed Timo Werner. And if they get the Timo Werner that people hope for with that front 2, they should be doing really well, especially offensively. But I just have a feeling he might not hit the ground running. And just because of that, it's going to be a bit of an underwhelming year. And I think they could miss the playoffs, but we'll see. I could be really proven wrong on that one.
I agree. I don't think they did enough to address the defense. Obviously, Espinosa's gone. Bruce Arena's still there. He's also said recently in an interview that Timo Werner might not be ready for this weekend, so that's concerning. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not high on them, so I can't even be disappointed in them in the first place. I put Charlotte here. I think a team that didn't fully replace Patrick Agyemang up front. They went with a guy named Islam Toklamati second half of the season, who had a few good games. They looked pretty toothless in the playoffs against NYCFC when they went out. I didn't think Zaha was great last year. I think he had a few moments, but he seemed to care, which was super important. I just didn't think he looked like an elite player. Pep Biel is here full time. He missed some time with injury. He was one of the best players in the league, full stop. Got Luca De La Torre in. But I just think this is a team that finished 4th in the Eastern Conference last year. I think a good season for them is making the playoffs again. I think they're just going to be kind of just outside that, but just relative to where they were, that's my team to go crashing down.
Yeah, no, I agree. Zaha, his biggest problem has always been himself. He seems to fight with everyone on Instagram about his form when not many people are talking about it. So, yeah, he hasn't been amazing. But, yeah, no, I don't mind that. My reasoning with San Jose was just that with the front line they have, you may expect them to do really well, and they haven't. But, yeah, Charlotte, I don't think are finishing 4th. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break. Really pleased with how that came out, Joe, and then we're going to go look at some individual players. Hey, you want to get involved in the conversation, please make sure to leave a comment down below about your feelings about this episode's podcast, and that can be wherever you get your podcast. And also, don't mind if you leave us a review while you're at it. Please engage by subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts. That's the end of part 1 of this week's All Soccer, but stick around for part 2 just after the break. Okay, we're back. We're looking at best transfers. Not as many of these marquee, expensive signings as there were last summer, but there were still some interesting ones. What do you have for us first off the bat?
Yeah, so this is obviously usually you go for forward positions. They're the most exciting, and rightly so. But I mentioned it in the first part. I think LAFC signing of Stefan Eustaquio is really good. I love my midfield positions. I think the team revolves around how things run in the midfield. And he's played basically consistently all the time for Porto since 2022, really highly rated there. And he's managed to keep his place despite them having a lot of talent over there. Obviously, it's a massive team, one of the biggest in Portugal. He's also become an absolute leader for the Canadian national team. And I just think having a play like that that's kind of gone below the radar, if he can dictate that midfield and he's passing it on to Schaffelberg and Bouanga and Son, and I just think that could be a really, really shrewd signing.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good shout. I also stayed in Los Angeles for mine, but I cheated a little bit and did a double signing. I'm for the LA Galaxy. Jakob Glesnes and Justin Haak are now in at center back. Glesnes on a cash trade from Philadelphia, Haak on a free from NYCFC. I think he played every single minute for NYCFC last year, both in center back and sometimes filling in defensive midfield. If you watched any Galaxy game last year, look, the attack certainly regressed from 2024, but the defense was the worst in the league, like literally the worst in the league. All sorts of problems, aging players. Yoshida, he's somehow still there. Zanka's gone, Garces is gone. It just needed pure talent upgrade, and they didn't really do anything in season to like mitigate it with the team so far out of the playoffs. So let's see how this team now looks with two experienced, competent, and like still young to early prime like center backs. It's just like, if this is like clearly the difference, if the attack is even what it was last year, which was middling, if it is what it looks like in 2024 and they have a half decent defense just by proxy, this team will be very good. And even if the attack is what it was last year and the defense improves 30%, that's a difference in a lot of points. But again, if the problems are more structurally just by having Puig absent, then it's a different issue. But I think by putting in these two center backs, you can really test to see what was the problem with the 2025 LA Galaxy. And was it the defense? Was it the midfield? So it's a nice just little experiment.
Yeah, no, I rate it. I mean, I think they've done really good business, to be fair. They've signed in some depth, maybe not starters in the midfield. Obviously, Puig will come back at some point, so they can't just go and splash out on someone.
He's not.
No, I know, but like he'll be back from 27. Like it's a short-term thing, and they've shored out the defense and added a decent striker too that got 10 MLS goals last year. So I really rate what they've done. Yeah.
You have any good shouts for breakout player this week? You can go any direction here. I went pretty rogue, but just curious to see who you have.
Mine might be a bit of a tap in. It feels crazy. We haven't spoken about Philadelphia yet. Obviously, they've sold basically everyone. which is why they weren't mentioned in the top 4. Usually they're there. I've just gone Kevin Sullivan. He's 16 now. He played in their CONCACAF first leg against Trinidadian team Defense Force, I think it was. They won 5-0. He made 13 appearances last year, but now he's 16. He's going to be going to City in a couple of years if that deal still stands. And now is the time for him to get game time in, especially with lots of space on the roster now. And I just feel like this is going to be the year that he becomes, a regular player for Philadelphia. And we're going to see some of that talent that has made him one of the highest prospects in the world.
Did you hear the interesting broadcasting call during that game? I don't know if I sent this to you.
Yes, I did hear that, which was, I had to replay it a few times and check it wasn't AI, but yes, that did happen. That
was the thing that happened. For anyone, this is a family-friendly show. For anyone of age, if you want to look up just Philadelphia Union versus the Defense Force is the team they played, which I believe is like the official military soccer team of Trinidad and Tobago. It was a big festival time of year in that country. I have one friend who's Trinidadian who's been posting a lot on Instagram. So people have been really in the streets recently, literally like partying in the streets, but also in the streets. Just it's a funny clip. Anyway, they won 5-0. Kevin Sullivan did play. I did go for a different player who came off the bench for the Philadelphia Union. Obviously, Philadelphia Union have sold Ty Baribo, who was their key man last year. So I thought there's going to be a little dearth up top in attack. So I went with a fellow named Bruno Damiani, who had 8 goals last year after moving from Nacional in Uruguay for a decent amount of money to the Union. He's already been called up to the Uruguay national team. Yeah, he scored a penalty in that game against Trinidad. Clearly, he is favored. He is well regarded, and he's going to get a lot of playing time in a team that was very good last year. And if they're similarly functional, just by virtue of being in that side, he should put up big numbers. So that was one player I'm going to watch. And just a deep shout. I know I always talk about Amal Pellegrino. He's at San Diego this year. They don't have a lot of talent, but they are a good side. So he scored 30 goals a year in Norway for like 3 or 4 years in a row at Bodo Glimt. Shout out Bodo Glimt. That's a player I think another one could finally put it together and have a strong MLS season in the statistical side of things.
Yeah, Damiani, I rate. Obviously, he signed last year and he didn't have 8 goals is decent, but he didn't have the consistency I think we expected. Baribo's now gone to DC, so he just naturally is going to start. So yeah, I think he could be definitely a decent scorer and a decent impact every week, especially when we're watching MLS 360 that crops up. I think as much as I'm worried about what Philly have done and letting so many players go, they must have a lot of trust in those to replace them ready at the club. So There's clearly a lot of faith behind him.
Yeah. And again, that was one, the future signing with the sale of Baribo looking forward. So next we have U.S. men's national team player with most to prove, as in the Joe picking Diego Luna trophy. But I'm curious if you picked Luna for this. I didn't pick Luna. So this is the U.S. men's national team player with the most to prove this season. Not the best, most to prove.
I've gone with Diego Luna because I feel like a mixture. One, I genuinely think that he does have a lot to prove and, could be on that World Cup roster if he has the season that he should do. But also the amount of him banging the drum and hyping him up. He has a lot to prove to me for that continued loyalty. But he's switched to the number 10 shirt. He's had a lot of interest from Europe, which we've said about, mainly in Spain more recently. And, there's the hype that's done enough talking now. He's got to make sure that he has a really, really good season, the best he's had, I think, to nail down that US spot and also justify all of the links to Europe. Because if he has those links and has a big dip of a season, those links may not come back. You never know. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. So that's going to be one to look out for. Certainly, but I just think it's generally a player I'm fairly apathetic towards, but maybe he'll have his breakout. I went with 2 players we've already talked about. Jack McGlynn and Brendan Vasquez, both returning from big injuries. Their team's marquee signings start ahead of 2025, who played half the year and then kind of everything fell apart. Both of these players are on the cusp of the U.S. men's national team. They've both been in and out of it at various points, but if they come back, they're obviously, we mentioned their sides like really fun, young attacking lineups. If they are able to slot into it, both of them will have quite a chance. So those are 2 players I'm curious to see. And again, these are players who in recent years you would have thought would have gone to Europe for their big move at the age of 23, 24, but they both decided to stay in the MLS. So those are my two shouts. Obviously, also both are in contention for comeback player of the year. I didn't have them down for comeback player of the year. I went a different direction, but who do you have for comeback player of the year?
I went Emmanuel Latte-Lath for Atlanta.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he had 7 goals last year. It's not like he totally flopped, but arriving on a record $30 million fee, I think it was such a disappointing year for Atlanta as a whole club, really. I just feel like he has to hit double figures. He has to make a statement this year to justify that price tag. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, like moving from the Championship and moving from England over to Atlanta, Georgia isn't exactly the most seamless transition in the world. And not everyone hits the ground running in MLS. Some players are gifted with that and some others aren't. But I feel like he has to have a big season coming up. And if he doesn't, Atlanta are going to be worried because that's $30 million and 2 years of underwhelming play from their striker, really. I think it has to be him, and if not, then questions will be asked.
Yeah, that's a good shout. And again, if he doesn't, what is this like? What can they sell him for? This is such an exorbitant sum of money for an MLS club to pay. Can they sell him back to England? Can they sell him back to Italy? It's unclear. I wanted to go with Ryan Gauld for this, but he's hurt again. Again, not a player we mentioned during the Vancouver preview because of his injuries and just too big of a question mark at this point. But hopefully we see Ryan Gauld this year, so I just can't put him in. We interviewed Joseph Pouncil on the podcast last week, but I didn't go with him. I went with his teammate, who I think is even better. It's Gabriel Peck, who went from 17 to 7 goals last year, despite still looking very, very sharp. Some of his underlying numbers were still there, but this is a player who on his day, anyone has seen any highlights or watched LA Galaxy play, this looks like one of the best players in the league. Is Bouanga-esque, the way he plays. So I would like to see, and again, you can throw a pencil in there as well. I'd love to see those players return to the stunning form they had in 2024 after a down 2025. And hopefully with the team improving, that will be possible.
Yeah, no, 10-goal drop-off is significant. I think Pansel did just get double figures last year, so might have been a bit harsh, but I think the whole forward line is going to be improved this year. So, but Gabriel Peck, yeah, he's definitely got a high ceiling. So if we see it this year, then the Galaxy, the sleeper team, please, I need it this year.
Yep. We have just 2 more for you guys. The NMVP, the non-Messi MVP, NMM MVP. It's a mouthful. I wanted to go Messi as my non-Messi MVP, if that's possible. It's just like, how many goals can he score this year? We should have had that as a superlative.
Yeah.
But I've struggled with this one to think of anyone clever or creative. It was, my eyes were really peeled to Los Angeles here. I tried to think outside the box, but I couldn't. And it's just I think I'm going, I wanted to say Bouanga, but I think I'm just going Heung-Min Son here.
Yeah, same. 100. If he has a good year, just because of the spotlight on him and the type of player he is and everything, I just feel like it will be him. He is going to score a couple of free kicks. He is going to score some great goals and have a great link up with Bouanga. It could become a case where if they had that incredible, Son is someone that's always latched on to another player. His assists and goals record with Harry Kane was insane, and we kind of saw a little bit of that at Bouanga. Obviously, Bouanga's the main forward other than him, so it's always going to be like that. But yeah, it's probably going to be one of them if LA are as good as we think they're going to be. But realistically,
yeah, and also it's going to come down to who takes penalties. Obviously, Bouanga had been there and was taking penalties. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like this season over the course of a full year. I assume it's going to be split at times, but that'll be one to watch for the MVP race. Even though I don't think penalties should count as goals, I also think whoever gets fouled has to take it. Different conversation. Heung-Min Son, again, 12 and 13 last year. Free kicks, he was doing well. The link-up was amazing. He's only 33, 34. I think this is his last full year of him being great. I wonder what, with the World Cup, if that will impact him at all. It's less games. I'd be surprised if Korea play more than 3 games at the World Cup. Bouanga's going to be taking a nice summer break. Will that impact it at all? He was just so good and fit in so seamlessly, and he has a full off season. Tottenham the year before played 65 games because of the Europa League and all this sort of stuff, and they weren't that good and playing him all over the pitch. I just think we had some nice time off. Obviously, LAFC's season went a little deep into the winter. I think he's going to come out firing.
Yeah, I think it's his. Obviously, if Messi doesn't win it, it's probably his to lose from the season start. And yeah, he's lost a bit of pace. He's not this player he was, but he's still a quality player. And I expect a big year for him.
And last one, Joe, the big boy, the winner of the MLS Cup this year. It's not many choices for the championship, I think. But I'm curious which one you went for of the choices available. Who is your MLS Cup champion this year?
This is a tough one because if you rule out Inter Miami, then you're either extremely bold or you have some sort of insider info that no one else has. I don't, winning it back to back is so difficult. So like the odds and the probabilities say it won't happen, but at the same time, the odds and probabilities of all MLS history has not really factored in Lionel Messi being on the team. So I just feel like they're probably going to do it again. I think it's a hard one. I think they could be better this year, but yeah, I'm going to have to say Miami just to save myself. Be interesting how the team can really, really stake their claim and challenge them, but it's probably going to be Miami, isn't it?
Part of my thinking for wanting to say Miami is the Eastern Conference just doesn't have that second clear-cut team that's a real challenge to them. Where in the West, I do think there's 4 or 5 teams that are going to be very, very good, and they're going to beat each other in the playoffs. Just like I thought the second and third best teams in the league last year were LAFC and Vancouver. They played in the Western Conference semifinals. And that's just how it is sometimes. And those teams look poised to meet in the Western Conference Finals this year. And I think Vancouver, who are clearly going for it, if they don't have the team that they need over the summer, they're going to make a signing. And I think if LA don't have the team they're going to need over the summer, they're going to make a signing. Miami cannot. They have utilized literally every possible MLS cap circumvention, DP, under 22 slot. They've stocked it in. And look, they're missing a few players from last year. Jordi Alba was really, really good last year. And it isn't something to scoff at. Messi's a year older. I'm going LAFC just because I think the age, the change of Miami, and just the clear commitment from LAFC to do whatever it takes to get over the line is going to make the difference.
I really agree with your analysis of the conferences. Like, obviously, Philadelphia Union won the Supporters' Shield. They might still be good, but they've sold everyone. So they've dropped off potentially. We have our doubts about Cincinnati. We didn't agree on our positioning. We've both said that Nashville are going to have a better year. Both of us think Chicago are going to come up. But there isn't that consistent from last year, like the West. Like you said, it's going to be a mixture of those kind of same teams up there. Maybe Seattle pushing 2, as you said. But yeah, I think that's fair. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami dominates the East, but in a one-off MLS Cup final, and you've got Heung-Min Son and Boanga in form, and Stakio, who I've said good things about, and Schaffelberg joining the ranks, and anything could happen. And if Son and Boanga are firing, there's no reason they couldn't run away with it. I like it. I think if that was that's the final I thought that MLS probably wanted to happen last year, I'd love to see it this year.
Yeah. It's gonna be really exciting. And look, most certainly there's going to be a dominant team that emerges that we have not discussed today, and we're going to be talking about them within 2 months as this is just a good team now, and like undisputedly. You can't predict everything. You can't project everything. I think both of us did a good job today of not just relying on like a consensus pick for the top of the table, but we both went off the board. I'm very pleased we both had Chicago in the top 4. That was like, I think we're more or less aligned on how we view the MLS as a whole, but Chicago could literally finish anywhere in the East. And that's kind of the glory of this league. Very akin to the EFL Championship over in England, but there's no parachute payments and all this stuff. Anyway, closing thoughts, Joe. We've taken a bunch of time here, but I thought this was fun to talk about.
Yeah, no, just closing thoughts. Really excited to either be proven right or absolutely humiliated in front of everyone again. But I think I'm just really excited for this season to start. And I think MLS is just chaotic. It is, like you said, like some teams can just rise up the whole conference and others can fall. Like it's a bit of a yo-yo league, a few consistent teams in and around, but I just love how volatile it is. And, we've missed it the last few months. It's back. It's going to be here for the majority of the year. So let's go. Yeah, let's absolutely do it. All right. That wraps up this podcast. All right, guys. He's been Joe McBride. I've been Jeremy Goldstein. We can hope you can join us again on the next episode of All Out Soccer, or as Thomas Muller would say, player we didn't mention too much this week, Auf Wiedersehen. See ya.